During my first few days at Duke, I was pleasantly surprised to see all the sustainability initiatives that were seen all throughout campus. Signs in bathrooms and water fountains reminded students of their environmental obligations to conserve water. The composting area at Marketplace was a great way to reuse scraps of food, and each dorm had recycling bins in addition to the routine garbage cans. However, as I went through the next few weeks of school, I noticed that many of these initiatives seemed only surface level. With many students eating outside of the Marketplace building, the food scraps and paper containers didn't go towards composting anymore, and many students took multiple boxes of food since there were multiple food options to choose from. As these boxes are thrown all throughout campus and even not in trash cans, the composting initiative on East Campus seemed dismal at best. Science can only do so much to encourage students to reduce their use. This is when I set out on my journey to explore the true extent of sustainability at Duke. Transportation is noticeably one of the first things students and visitors see. Although there's a fair share of cars at the university, alternate transportation is a more common sight. From east to west, the C1 buses are constantly running back and forth, and during peak times, even multiple buses aren't enough to handle the slew of students scrambling to be on the bus. Electric scooters and bikes are also very widespread, and there are even bike repair stations throughout campus to encourage their use. Using the buses, I first made my way to the Duke Reclamation Pond, also known as the Duke Pond. The pond, completed in 2015, cost $11.5 million, and it acts as a central drainage spot for all of the rainfall and runoff from the 265 acres of West Campus. Many visitors pass by the pond with strollers, on a run, and more, and wildlife is also a very common sight to see walking by the pond. It didn't take much research to find out that the construction process kept sustainability in mind. The construction team had to remove 1,558 trees to make room for the pond, and these same trees were later repurposed into wood to make the pond's deck and handrails. The rest of the wood was turned into mulch for the campus. Duke saves $400,000 annually from the pond, which decreases the amount of water the university buys from the city of Durham by 100 million gallons. More than saving the university money, the 100 million gallons of water no longer purchased can be used for the needs of other Durham residents. My next venture was to check out student efforts to promote sustainability. This led me to the 3rd annual Devil's Thrift House. Student, faculty, and student organizations donated dorm items, office supplies, clothes, and more through the course of the semester. On the day of the thrift house, the line at Penn Pavilion was already stretching outside of the building at 11 a.m., the starting time for the thrift house. Students and other visitors were allowed to take up to 5 items for free, and if they returned with donations, they were allowed to take more. During the first hour, much of the items were taken. Talking to the organizers of the thrift house, I found out that any items not taken would eventually be donated, and this ensured as little waste as possible. My next objective was to visit the Duke Gardens. The compost initiative at the gardens is very extensive. Every 6 months, the garden creates 300 cubic yards of mulch and 90 cubic yards of compost, which saves the university $50,000 annually and decreases our carbon footprint. The Charlotte Brody Discovery Garden includes a smaller compost area that is open for viewing to the public. The starting material for the compost includes organic materials found in the garden, including leaves. There are 3 stages, and after the final state, the compost created is used to help grow produce in the garden. Visitors can learn about organic vegetable and fruit gardening and can take hands-on classes. Eventually, the produce is donated to local families through a partnership with Healthy Families of Durham. Due to this reason, visitors are asked not to pick the produce. Another location that the compost from Duke Gardens is used is at the Smart Home, a living laboratory for students to experiment with various ideas. The idea for the Smart Home was thought of by student Mark Young. Built in 2007, the cost of the house was $2 million and was funded mostly by Home Depot. The solar panels on the top of the house provide 10% of the energy used by the house, and the house does face south for solar advantage. In front of the Smart Home is a solar-powered mailbox, and this student project sent a signal to a computer inside the house to notify when mail was delivered. Currently, the mailbox does not work. As soon as you walk in, the common room and kitchen can be seen, which is the classroom and general meeting room for students. Immediately, the cork floorboard is visible. Cork is a sustainable material, and as it is paneled, it can easily be replaced. All lights in the building are LED lights, which consume 75% less power, provide more light, and can last up to 20 years. And as mentioned before, the compost from the Duke Gardens is also used in the backyard community garden of the Smart Home. The landscape project is part of the Sustainability Sites initiative. The Smart Home has so many more sustainable features, just as there are so many more sustainable university initiatives that I haven't even mentioned.
A lot of what we hear on the news regarding climate change in our environment is negative and fear-instilling for the future. Going through this journey helped me realize that all these initiatives, from a beautiful pond to the thrift house and the Smart Home and more, all these initiatives are not insignificant. We can and we will create change.